The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by Rabbi Jeffrey Arnowitz, Congregation Bel Eth, Norfolk, Virginia.
May the divine presence bless the members of this honorable body with eyes for the vision of prophets, with minds for the reasoning of sages, and with hearts for the fortitude and generosity of saints. We pray today that they are granted awareness to sense your holiness and greatness in the world, and the strength of purpose to extend your love and holiness into every corner of this Commonwealth. Invested with authority by the people of Virginia, may they carry your goodness like a torch, shining a light into the shadows and spreading prosperity and dignity to all. May you grant them, along with all the residents of this great Commonwealth, the ability to see with your eyes, for in your eyes all human beings are equal, all are equally loved and precious. In recognizing that we are all your children, brothers and sisters united in love, may we serve all equally, no matter the color of their skin, the place of their birth, the anatomy of their bodies, the preference of their sexuality, or the faith of their heart. Grant those who legislate here the ability to discern true justice in all of their endeavors. May they be reminded to walk in your ways, upholding the cause of the orphan and the widow, and befriending the stranger, providing him with food and clothing, and never oppressing the stranger, for we have all been strangers in a strange land, or are descended from those who were. May we never forget those origins or the munificence they demand of us. In considering the way we care for the elderly, ill, and infirmed, may they remember the words of the psalmist, "Do not cast me off in old age when my strength fails. Do not forsake me." When deliberating on the education of the children who are our future, may you remind them of the words of your prophet Hosea, who reminds us that lessons of righteousness and goodness are as important as instruction in science and skill. At this moment in the history of our Commonwealth and our nation, a moment of some division and acrimony, may those who sit in this hallowed space of public service shine as an example of cooperation and collaboration, putting the business of the people above the business of partisan politics, and thus serving as a living example of the prosperity and effectiveness that can be achieved in true dialogue and mutual respect. As such, may the members of this Virginia Senate pursue peace in these walls and inspire peace outside of them. May that blessing of peace spread throughout this Commonwealth, throughout this great nation, and indeed throughout the world, such that nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. May the words of our lips and the supplication of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Clerk will call the roll. All those present will record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal from Monday, January 29, 2018.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the waiving of the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of the waiving of the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all of the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 2.
Ayes 36, noes 2. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
I do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now comes the time where we recognize visitors here with us in the Senate gallery. And I'd like to give our gentle daily reminder that the way this will proceed is that a senator will stand and be recognized and recognize the group or individual. I will then extend the warm welcome of the Senate, and then we will all clap together at once after that is concluded. So we'll start with the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, joining us in the gallery today are some of my constituents who are participating in the Powhatan Leadership Institute class of 2018. The Powhatan Leadership Institute informs, educates, and enlightens interested citizens about issues facing the county to foster citizen involvement in making Powhatan an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. Its goal is to help the county reap the benefits of the varied talents and skills of its citizen graduates. Mr. President, please offer the Powhatan Leadership Institute the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Powhatan Leadership Institute in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We echo the words of the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant, and thank you for your leadership here in Powhatan and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're grateful for your dedication and your commitment, and we look forward to all the great things that you will continue to do. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Powhatan Leadership Institute. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two introductions.
The senator has the floor.
The rabbi who gave today's inspiring prayer is Rabbi Jeffrey Arnowitz of Congregation Bethel in Norfolk, and he's also the president of the Board of Rabbis and Cantors of Hampton Roads. He serves on the board of directors of the Jewish Family Service of Tidewater and the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. So on behalf of the senator from southern Chesapeake and myself, I would ask that you extend the greetings of the Senate to him.
I thank the senator. Rabbi Arnowitz, would you please rise in the gallery? We are so grateful that you joined us here today. Thank you for that truly moving and beautiful prayer. Got us off to a really wonderful start. We've all gotten a chance to see you, to know you, and I personally have gotten to know you from your leadership in Norfolk and Hampton Roads, and I thank you for everything that you continue to do to inspire us all. So with that, I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Rabbi Jeffrey Arnowitz. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. For our second introduction, I wanted to mention that we're joined today in Capitol Square, and I believe also in the gallery, by members of the Jewish Community Relations Councils of Greater Washington, Richmond, the Virginia Peninsula, and Tidewater. Over 200 who are here today representing Jewish communities and the more than 70,000 Jews living in Virginia. They're here for their annual lobby day, lobbying for others and the greater good in Virginia. The Jewish Community Relations Council's lobby days always amaze me because they're not asking for things for themselves, but for things for the rest of the Commonwealth.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington, Richmond, and Tidewater in the gallery please rise? Thank you so much for joining us here today. I had the distinct pleasure of getting to visit with you before our session today. And as the senator from Alexandria noted, we're very grateful for your advocacy, particularly for your advocacy on behalf of others to give them equality and opportunity. And it really is an inspirational thing to see. We are proud that you're here. You're welcome anytime here in the Senate and here in this Capitol. We hope you have a great day. And we'd ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the JCRC here in Virginia. Thank you all so much. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, as you may be aware, I live in Ag Central in the gentle palm, in the gentle fold in the palm of God's hand, which is the Shenandoah Valley. And we have some students here from the Warren County 4-H. And 4-H does such a good job of providing activities for students and promoting agriculture and promoting the number one economy or number one business in Virginia's economy, agriculture. Mr. President, I would ask you to extend a warm welcome of the Senate to the 4-H group from Warren County who are joining us here today.
Thank the senator. Would the members of the Warren County 4-H with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Out back. They're making their way in. So I tell you what, I want to make sure they get a proper welcome, and so we will wait for them to come in, and we'll do it at that time. But thank you, Senator, for the introduction. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the first one dovetails with the senator from Rockingham's introduction. Mr. President, I think most of the members know that I occasionally horse around, as do many of our members. But the horse industry, the equine industry in the Commonwealth, is a tremendous asset to Virginia's economy. The 4-H effort with the horse industry is significant. There are hundreds of young people, literally, that they work with individually, annually, in pursuit of their work with the equine industry. And, Mr. President, we have here today representatives of the 4-H Horse Ambassadors Group. Mr. President, I would ask you to recognize that group at this time.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the 4-H Horse Ambassadors Group with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you so much for joining us here today. We echo the words of the senator from Augusta, and thank you for your leadership. It's such an important industry and something that we're very proud of here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We thank you for your leadership and your involvement and wish you all the best of luck. You're always welcome here in the Senate. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our 4-H ambassadors. Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. And continuing with our agriculture theme today, Mr. President, we also have a group representing the Virginia FFA Association, the Future Farmers of America, in the gallery today. And they're here for a specific purpose. On third reading today for final passage, they're here to observe, hopefully, the passage of a bill which will create a special license plate for the Future Farmers of America, which proclaims we are the birthplace of Future Farmers of America here in the Commonwealth. And, Mr. President, I would ask you to recognize this group at this time.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Virginia Future Farmers of America please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you so much for joining us here today. We're very proud of your work and echo the words of the senator from Augusta about your leadership and your very bright futures. And we often say the future is now. And so everything that you're doing today is preparing you for leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and beyond. So we're grateful to you. You are welcome here anytime. And I'll ask everybody, please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Virginia Future Farmers of America. Senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, visiting with us today in the gallery are students, administrative staff, and the president of John Tyler Community College. Mr. President, since 1967, John Tyler Community College has been serving the community as a public two-year institution of higher education offering high quality, easily accessible, and affordable education for their students. Graduates of John Tyler go on to enter into top-notch jobs in universities. They train for technical careers and participate in community engagement. In fact, they serve in the General Assembly, Mr. President. But with two campuses in Chester and Midlothian, John Tyler Community College continues to serve a diverse and vibrant student body that encourages their students to succeed and become thriving members of our community. Representatives from John Tyler Community College today are Mr. Reese Atkins, Ms. Heather Ashbeck, Mr. Stephen Escamilla, Mr. Alexis Gomez, Ms. Dana Laguerre, Ms. Jordan Nerney, Ms. Brittany White, Mrs. Holly Walker, and Dr. Edward Ted Raspiller, President of John Tyler Community College. Mr. President, I ask that you extend to the John Tyler Community College representatives the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Dr. Raspiller and all the members of John Tyler Community College delegation please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for the wonderful work that you do in our Commonwealth. We've had the opportunity to talk with Dr. Raspiller about the great and innovative work that you're doing around workforce development and making sure that everyone has a shot at a high-quality education and a brighter economic future. It's a source of pride for us here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we are very grateful for your work. You, of course, are welcome here anytime. My Deputy Chief of Staff, Ed Reed, is also on the faculty at John Tyler Community College, so we're very proud of that as well. So thank you for your leadership. Continued success to you. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our representatives from John Tyler Community College. Senior Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions.
Senator has the floor.
First, I introduce the son of my seatmate, Mr. Will Vogel. Many of you have seen Will over the years. He's been here a number of times. He's sort of grown up with us. He's now 14 years old. He's an 8th grader at the Hill School, and son of my wonderful seatmate here. And he was a Senate page last year. Did a great job for us, and we're always happy to have our pages back, and very pleased. I have a seatmate who is proud as punch of her son. So if we could extend the warm welcome of the Senate to him.
Absolutely. Thank the Senator. Would Will Vogel please rise in the gallery? Will, thank you so much for joining us here today. We know that your mother is so proud of you, as is everyone here in the Senate. Thank you for what you're doing and the bright future that you have in front of you. You have a wonderful family. We're grateful for your family service here to the Commonwealth of Virginia, particularly to your mom, who's a wonderful senator here. We thank you for joining us today. You, of course, are welcome anytime. I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Will Vogel. Senior Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's with great pleasure that I now introduce one of the finest activist groups in the state of Virginia. We have a large group from Decoding Dyslexia. Thanks to the vote, which it may have been unanimous, I think, in both houses, but we introduced legislation last year that required the school systems to have experts in dyslexia. And I'm going to tell you, this group is on the roll, and they are teaching kids. 1 out of 5 children has dyslexia, and typically the kids are at average or above average level of intelligence. And these folks are here led by Lorraine Hightower, who is the regional leader for decoding dyslexia. And then we have Kristen Kane and Lorelei. Kristen was one of the founding members nationally of Decoding Dyslexia. And then I'm going to just rattle off a few of the other names. Melinda Mansfield with Will and Josie. Kelly Huff with Snyder and Josiah and Catherine. Carrie Boda. Nikki McMahon with Kagan. Sharon Trupp. Vicki Myers. Patty Wojcicki and Shelby. Amy Wells and Ellie. And I will tell you, these folks are accomplishing fantastic things. And so I would just ask that we extend to them the warm greetings of the Virginia Senate.
I thank the senator. Would the members of Decoding Dyslexia of Virginia in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. It's a very robust group, and we are grateful that you took the time to visit with us. We're also very grateful for the work that you're doing on such an important issue and making sure that our children and our families can achieve and overcome any challenges that they face. And it really is the work that you're doing, the advocacy that you are engaged in, that's making that possible for so many families here in Virginia and beyond. So keep up the great work. We are very appreciative of everything that you are doing. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the members of Decoding Dyslexia in Virginia. Thank you. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I'd like to request a leave of absence for Senator Howe for today.
The journal will so note, without objection.
Thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this morning I had a great opportunity to meet with the Orange County Office on Youth and the Youth Council. This group of young people is doing tremendous things, and they have some great questions to ask. We talked a little bit about monetary policy today and Bitcoin and those sort of things and what we have to do with regard to that. We really didn't get a lot of time much beyond that, and I would like to spend more time with them. They're accompanied by Asha Vines and Stacy Burleson. And, Mr. President, I would ask that you would extend the warm welcome of the Senate to these fine young people.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Orange County Youth Council in the gallery with us please rise if you're able? Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are so grateful for your leadership, and we also echo the words of Senator Reeves' very kind and generous words about your work. We are very proud of you and continue to do what you have done in leading us into the future. And so thank you so much. You're welcome here anytime. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Orange County Youth Council. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction and an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, some 50 years ago today, a group of concerned citizens got together and started an organization. That organization has continued to grow. We're now in Virginia alone. There's over 70,000 members of this organization. It's the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. They're the largest single organization solely dedicated to improving the quality of the bay that we all enjoy here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They have 3 full-time centers here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mr. President. They have the Brock Environmental Center down in my district in Virginia Beach, and if you haven't had the opportunity, I encourage you to come down and see what is a truly, totally renewable energy-powered building that really sets a standard that we can all observe and take note of. They also have facilities, an oyster restoration facility in Gloucester, as well as another facility in Virginia. They have dedicated themselves to working with legislators, to working with policymakers, with working with the federal government and attracting more citizens to gather a grassroots group that has really shown the efforts. And when we see the report card on the bay and how much the quality of the water of the bay has improved, we know we still have a long way to go, but we couldn't have done it without an organizations like the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Mr. President, we have with us, joining us today is Mr. Chris Moore, Elizabeth Ronston, Matt Kowalski, Blair Blanchett, Skylar King, Jeanne Hoffman, Bobby Weitzcarver, Rebecca Thomason, and Will Baker. I ask that you give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for your wonderful work. And of course, the Chesapeake Bay is really a crown jewel for us here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we are so appreciative of your dedication to making sure we constantly improve the health and the life of the Bay. It's crucial to our economy and to our environment. And it only happens because leaders like you step up and make it a priority. And so I thank the senior senator from Virginia Beach for welcoming you and for his gracious words about your work. We look forward to you continuing that work well into the future. And I would ask everyone here to please join me extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the members of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Senior Senator from Virginia Beach.
And by way of announcement, Mr. President, because of the hard work of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, we've seen a massive replenishment of oysters up and down and throughout the Bay. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation has brought a few of those fine oysters with them here to Richmond, Mr. President, and they'll make them available to everyone. There's going to be a beautiful legislative reception at the Dominion Arts Center right here on Gray Street between 5:30 and 7, and I hope all the members of the Senate will join me in attending this reception.
Thank the Senator. Senator from Rockingham, I want to check and see whether or not the Warren County 4-H has made its way to the gallery. Here?
Well, if they're here.
I believe they're here. So, Senator has the floor if you'd like to do your introduction again.
Mr. President, as I mentioned before, while they were waiting in the queue to get into the gallery, we are joined today by a group from Warren County 4-H representing the agricultural heritage of the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and would ask you to extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would the members of the Warren County 4-H with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. It's such a wonderful and big group. So I understand why it took a while to get everybody here in the gallery today, but Senator from Rockingham had nothing but wonderful and generous things to say about each one of you and about the group as a whole. We thank you for your leadership and your engagement in civic life here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Please continue that great work, and we look forward to celebrating you in the future. You are welcome here anytime in the Senate and in the Capitol. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Warren County 4-H. The Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, today is Hokie Day at the Capitol. It's the 20th annual Hokie Day, and we have a large number of students, undergraduates and graduate students here in the gallery and throughout the Capitol. They represent people from all over the Commonwealth of Virginia, and each of the 8 colleges at Virginia Tech. We're very proud of Virginia Tech. It's so important to the Commonwealth. It's providing so much, not only in academic education, but also the economy of the Commonwealth, the research and development, and all the things that are going on at Virginia Tech. We're very, very proud. So give these students, graduates and undergraduate students at Virginia Tech, the very warm welcome of the Senate on this great Hokie Day.
I thank the Senator very much. Would our students, faculty, and other members from Virginia Tech with us in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today. We echo the words of the Senator from Roanoke City about just how impressive each one of you is and how impressive Virginia Tech is as an institution. It is a source of pride and a crown jewel here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It really has leadership not just here in the Commonwealth, but around the country and around the world. I would note the Senator from Roanoke City's tie, if you have not seen it. He is wearing a Hokie tie today, and it is very appropriate and very fitting, and so we're grateful to you. Oh, I'm sorry, the Senator from Rockingham also is representing, so he's got his tie on as well for Virginia Tech. So we thank you guys so much for your leadership, for making us all so proud. Continue that great work, and go Hokies. I'd ask everybody to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to all of our members here from Virginia Tech University. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of introduction? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, January 30th, 2018. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
The Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now move that all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 1 through 16, including Senate Bill 256 through Senate Bill 959, be placed on their final passage in the block. If any senator desires to remove one of the bills from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 16, Senate Bill 256 through Senate Bill 959, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 256, Senate Bill 693, Senate Bill 14, Senate Bill 35, Senate Bill 71, Senate Bill 78, Senate Bill 84, Senate Bill 125, Senate Bill 126, Senate Bill 129, Senate Bill 143, Senate Bill 210, Senate Bill 226, Senate Bill 229, Senate Bill 273, Senate Bill 291, Senate Bill 307, Senate Bill 329, Senate Bill 359, Senate Bill 417.
Mr. President?
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Yes, could Senate Bill 417 come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 417 will come out of the block and be passed by for the day.
Senate Bill 446, Senate Bill 456, Senate Bill 476, Senate Bill 526, Senate Bill 533, Senate Bill 536, Senate Bill 544.
Mr. President.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Could Senate Bill 544 come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 544 will come out of the block and be passed by for the day.
Senate Bill 557, Senate Bill 632, Senate Bill 658, Senate Bill 701, Senate Bill 703, Senate Bill 728, Senate Bill 735, Senate Bill 873, Senate Bill 943, Senate Bill 959.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is all bills except for Senate Bills 417 and 544. All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 150, a bill relating to elections, ascertainment of results by the Electoral Board, write-in votes.
The senator from
floor amendment.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Yeah, Mr. President, I move that we reconsider the vote by which the Senate Bill 150 was ordered, engrossed, and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall we reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 150 was engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we agree to the floor amendment and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
What this does, yesterday we had a long discussion about raising the number of write-in votes that are specifically differentiated by the registrars or the electoral boards from 5% to 20%, and I had argued, as many others did, that 20% was just too high. The amendment brings it down to 10%. I did a little bit of research and found that there's three different approaches that states seem to take. Three do as Virginia's do today, or three that we know of. Let any name be written in, and then they have a threshold. And Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, we know, have 5%, and there are others that probably have higher. Then some states don't allow for any write-in candidates at all, and other states require write-in candidates to declare their intent as a write-in candidate before their votes are counted. So we thought 10% would be a nice middle ground. It would make it a little easier for the registrars, but it would take a true write-in candidate that had an organized effort, make that easier for people to know about. So with that, I would move, again, that we accept the amendment.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading be dispensed with.
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading is dispensed with. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 150 pass. By way of explanation, I believe we have an agreement. If I'm not mistaken, I think we do. And I think everybody understands what the bill does. And without any further explanation, I move again the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 150? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 150 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, noes 17. Senate Bill 150 passes.
Senate Bill 153, a bill relating to elections, form of ballot, order of independent candidates.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that we reconsider the vote by which the bill was ordered, engrossed, and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the vote by which the bill was engrossed and advanced to its third reading be reconsidered? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the bill go by for the day to get a floor amendment properly drafted.
Without objection, Senate Bill 153 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 555, a bill relating to barrier crimes, adult substance abuse, and mental health treatment providers.
Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 555 pass. And speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the Senate, as a non-lawyer, I don't bring a bill to add burglary to a list of screenable offenses for community services boards lightly. I spent time in the other chamber in the criminal subcommittee and understand that barrier crimes are very dangerous situations. The senior senator from Loudoun in committee, as this was re-referred, took the time to speak to us about a harrowing situation. And I hope that that person is still in prison today. Mr. President, we're currently in an opioid crisis in this state and in this country. This morning on the cover of the USA Today is a story of prescription painkillers being the gateway to opioids, heroin, and fentanyl, and the loss of a 17-year-old young man's life. In 2006, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court set up the Virginia Commission on Mental health law reform. The quote from that commission in 2006 said that failure on the part of providers to fully understand the importance of peer support, limited funding to expand services, a decrease in support for the training of peers, and barrier crime limitations on employment in state and federal laws have all contributed to the very slow growth of peer support employment in the Commonwealth. Mr. President, members of the Senate, that's what we're here talking about. We're trying to get peer support counseling, someone who in their past has been convicted of burglary, only eligible to be screened. It's important to note that if your CSB doesn't want to hire anyone that has to be screened, that is their prerogative. There's no cost to the CSB because DBHDS provides these screeners. In fact, if you have one in your locality, they consider it a conflict of interest to use it to possibly hire somebody. Last year, Mr. President, only 35 people would have fallen under this eligibility, and not all of those would have been eligible to be screened. And I want to take your time quickly, and I'll move quickly, to just talk to you to say, to be eligible for screening, the applicant shall have completed all prisoner jail terms, should not be under probation or parole supervision, shall have no pending charges in any locality, shall have paid all fines, restitution, and court costs for any prior convictions, and shall have been free of parole or probation for at least 5 years of all convictions. The screening is borne by the applicant unless the local board decides that they want to pay, that it's important enough for them to hire. In committee, Mr. President, members of the Senate, if you weren't there, we heard from 2 peer support counselors, one who under the current law would not be eligible to do the work that he does. We just passed a bill that allows one of his 3 centers in Richmond to remain open on the uncontested docket today. We also heard from another gentleman on the Virginia Peninsula whose life's work is working to the community and, in fact, saved a young heroin addict from overdosing, having just walked up on a traffic accident this year. So, Mr. President, members of the Senate, as I said, I don't tread lightly on asking for this barrier crime to be included in screening. We often here look inward at people that have perpetrated crimes, in this case, largely to the advancement of their addiction. I ask us today to look outward, to look at the crisis that we have, to look at the people that need the help, and would now have the opportunity to sit across the table from someone who's been where they've been, who's gone through what they've gone through, and have satisfied all the requirements necessary to say, I did it, you can do it. It's not going to be easy, but these are the steps you have to take. For those reasons, Mr. President, members of the Senate, I ask that Senate Bill 555 pass.
Thank the senator. A junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Mr. President, I rise to vote against this bill and speak against this bill.
The senator has the floor.
This isn't just about CSBs, Mr. President. This is about DHBS as well. And here's the issue. If it was just about support counselors and peer support counselors, I probably would support this bill, but it's not. This is about our IDDD environment and community, so our most vulnerable population. And this is taking somebody who's been convicted of burglary, breaking into one's house, stealing somebody's property. And now we're going to take those individuals and we're going to put them in charge and responsible for our most vulnerable population, the intellectually disabled and developmentally disabled, those who can't take care of themselves. So from my standpoint, we're taking somebody who's a convicted criminal and putting them in charge of somebody who can't make decisions for themselves and basically a target-rich environment. So because of that, I vehemently do not support this bill and would ask everyone to vote against this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to oppose the measure.
Senator has the floor.
First, I compliment the gentleman from Williamsburg. I do believe that there are areas where we can deal with barrier crimes and perhaps, particularly in this type of environment, there may be some modifications. I am particularly concerned about the crime of burglary. There are 2 crimes for breaking into an individual's house. If you break in during the daytime, you have breaking and entering. But if you break in at night it is burglary. Now, the reason that there is a distinction made is that when you break in the darkness, it is much more likely that you're going to encounter individuals who are living there. The danger that someone gets seriously injured, raped, murdered, are exponentially higher. And that's why the penalties are greater for burglary. And burglary has always been looked upon as an especially serious crime. I personally had an experience with it. Came home one evening, and there was a burglar in the house, and I heard him rummaging around, grabbed a snake hook, went in the house. He leaped out a window. I leaped out the window after him. He pulled a knife. The next time we're running through the neighborhood, I'm yelling for help. And of course, my advice to you, never yell burglar help. Okay? Nobody comes. And we're in a suburban neighborhood, and we fight our way across the street, and we fight across into the backyard of Stanley Stein's home. And Stanley thought there were some kids horsing around, and he turned on his light. And the burglar at that point did something that you should never do when you're in a knife fight, and that is to take your eyes off your opponent. And he did that, and when he did, I was able to slam the snake hook into his shoulder, and I suspect that he recalled that event each night that he slept with his ibuprofen for the rest of his life. But I will tell you, not everybody has a snake hook and is ready to leap out the window and grab these guys. And there are a lot of people who are helpless. There are a lot of elderly women who are alone and who do not know how to handle guns and don't like guns. And all of a sudden, there's a man in there. And so, while I sympathize with the general direction that the gentleman from Williamsburg is taking. I think there is some positive merit to it. I don't think that burglary is one of those things that we should include. I don't think that we should allow these people in there because burglary is extraordinarily dangerous. This individual slammed a steel box on my head. And fortunately, I had long, thick hair at the time, and so I was able to get up off the ground and continue chasing him. We had quite a time there. But in any event, I was fortunate. But I will tell you, from that time on, for years, I mean, literally for years, I was always nervous in an empty house, even as an adult. And I armed myself because I was not going to be caught in a situation where I had to chase somebody with a snake hook rather than with a .45 caliber pistol. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I just think that perhaps this could be relooked over the coming year. There may be some areas where we could make some adjustments, but I don't think burglary is one of them. Thank you.
I thank the senator. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Rise to speak to the bill, Mr. President.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll look at the sheet, you'll see that originally I voted no on this, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to throw up a green today. I'm not a master storyteller like my colleague from Loudoun County. I do understand where my colleague from Hanover had some concerns about the bill as well, why he threw up his no. But I want to tell you why I'm going to vote yes. It's because a senior senator from Virginia Beach told me a story about his brother, and some of you that are in that committee found out that's a very personal story to him. And I'd like to just tell you that in speaking with Carl Leonard, the sheriff down in Chesterfield, he got the first inmates ever to be certified as peer counselors, paid for the money for them to do that, to go and attack this heroin epidemic. I think what the Senator Mason is trying to do is admirable. I think the safeguards are in place, and I think it's a way to make some progress, even though small progress, forward in some of these issues, and these folks are willing to step forward. And I do understand also where my colleague is, the junior senator from Virginia Beach. But if we don't take the step, we're never going to get there, and the first step's always the hardest. So that's why I'm going to throw up a green vote, Mr. President.
I thank the senator, the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I haven't, that I know of, been hit in the head with a steel box, and I'm not quite sure, what a snake hook is. But Mr. President, I have seen a program. Mr. President, I have seen a program that I know works. The senator from Spotsylvania referenced my brother-in-law, and I had not intended to share with the audience, but since he brought it up, I guess I better say a little something. I had the opportunity to go to my brother-in-law's what they call 10th birthday party. And if you have not been to a Naranon meeting, I would encourage everybody, and certainly everybody's welcome to go to those if they'd like to go to. This was not 10 years because he was 10 years old. This 10 years because he was 10 years clean. And one of the things that struck me, Mr. President, was the amount of people that got up and thanked my brother-in-law because they would not be here today had it not been for the intervention of my brother-in-law and the help. And I don't know other programs that work, Mr. President, but I do know one program that works, and it's a recovering addict helping another recovering addict. Now, I would imagine if we had barrier crime bills for a Naranon meeting, there would probably be about 3 people in there instead of 40 or 50 that were in that room. These have checkered past. There's a high likelihood if you have an addiction problem, you're going to have a criminal record somewhere along the line because obviously you broke the law by the very thought that you had addiction, but also to support your habit. You tend to do a lot of things that you wouldn't otherwise do if you weren't addicted to a drug. And these are people trying to get better. And what we're saying in this bill is we'd like that opportunity to look for very effective recovering alcoholics or recovering narcotics folks, to use that opportunity to have them go in where the addicts are and see if we can't have the opportunity to turn more people to the road of recovery. Mr. President, I've seen it work. I've watched it work with my brother-in-law. I've seen it work. Not everybody gets through it. Some people come back 2, 3, 4 times. Apparently, there is no pass-fail. Just stay in the program. And so, Mr. President, I would hope we support this because we all talk about it. We all talk about programs that we know, and we know we have a serious opioid problem in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know it's very serious, and we're grappling for solutions. This is a program that's been there for a long time. This is a program that we know works. This is a program that would turn away any government dollar that was ever off to them. They don't want it. They don't take political views. They don't do anything. But there are people in that program that we can use in a community setting to hopefully open the eyes of other addicts that there's another path besides either death through drugs or jail through drugs, because that's the only other 2 paths that you can do. So, Mr. President, I would hope we would support this bill, and thank you.
Thank the senator. Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'm having a really hard time keeping this vision of the senior senator from Loudoun with long hair and a snake hook out of my head. But I would note that if anybody wants to get a snake hook, according to Google, you can get them at tongs.com, which is the leading website for herpetologists. But on a more serious note, I think a lot of times when we hear people throw around these felonies and barrier crimes on the floor, a lot of people have a lot of worst-case scenarios flash in their minds for good reason. But it's important to remember that somebody can pick up a conviction for burglary if they weren't even present in the home, because we have in Virginia principals, we have accessories before and after the fact. And some of the scenarios that I've been witness to having to represent folks that have been caught up in this opiate crisis include people who are manipulated into situations where they had no idea what they were really being manipulated into. Frequently, many of these opiate addicts are together. They're involved in different ways, boyfriends, girlfriends. They're doing things to get things from each other. And so sometimes you'll have somebody who, for example, is lured into giving somebody a ride to somebody else's home, having no idea that a burglary is intended or a robbery is intended or anything like that, and they end up being the person in the car. And they don't go in the house. They didn't know somebody's going to go in the house. You couple that situation where people with no money and without adequate legal representation, you often result in people ended up picking up certain convictions where they really never should have gotten that picked up to begin with when they're in the middle of a crisis in their life. And so, every burglary conviction is not somebody breaking into a home and being chased down with a snake hook. Many of them are a lot less severe than that. And what this statute does is it gives the Community Service Board the discretion to look into this situation to figure out if they think it was serious enough to where it merits somebody not being employed. But every burglary is not a horrific burglary. And I think it's important to remember that when we see bills like this, and we have to consider these issues. I would hope you'd support the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel, rise?
Mr. President, I rise to speak on behalf of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise just to urge the members of the body to support this bill. I hit my button only after the snake hook story, just to make an observation, not to undermine the impactfulness of his statements, but just to say there's a lot that happens between the time you leave with the snake hook in your arm and the time you show up in recovery to help somebody else who is also in recovery. And in the many, many months that I spent traveling around the Commonwealth of Virginia as a statewide candidate, I can tell you I spent time on a lot of issues, but nothing has stuck with me like the conversations I had with men and women around Virginia who were in recovery. And almost every one of those people who was successful came out of a terrible place. And they came from a place where they had been in trouble. And they had survived, many of them, things that they didn't think they would survive. And many of them had a criminal background. And the ones that were successful helping others through their recovery process were the people who had had the toughest time and who could sit down sharing with their peers how they had come through it. And they were only successful in helping their peers because they could tell them that, yes, they could survive it too. And so I would hope that members of the body would pass the bill. It was among one of the highest priorities of those in the recovery community that we come to the General Assembly with legislation like this and allow them to have peer-to-peer support systems in place and in places where recovery could occur so that we can do something to actually combat this opioid crisis. So I would encourage members of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 555? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 555 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 7.
Ayes 32, noes 7. Senate Bill 555 passes.
Senate Bill 445, a bill relating to the Advisory Board on Philanthropy and Social Innovations.
The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Wexton.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill would create the Advisory Board on Philanthropy and Social Innovation, and do not let that name scare you, okay? Because all that this is doing is helping our government agencies in this time when we are asking them, as we continually do, to do more with less. What this board would do is to allow the state to take advantage of and leverage private dollars. That is, to promote collaboration between the state government and private foundations to help fill gaps in the provision of services across the Commonwealth. In states where this has been used, it has resulted in tens and hundreds of millions of dollars coming into the provision of those services, like pre-K education, like workforce development, like community health, that would not otherwise be available. This bill has a 4-year sunset on it, so if it doesn't work, we don't have to bring it back. It has no fiscal impact. There is really no risk to the Commonwealth, but the benefits could be many. So I hope that the body will pass this measure.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 445? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 445 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 20.
Ayes 19, noes 20. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 108, a bill relating to orders of publication to enforce tax lien limited value property.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senate Bill 108 provides that in order of publication for enforcement of a lien for taxes owed on real property that has a value of $50,000 or less need be published only once. Under current law, such order is required to be published at least once a week for 2 consecutive weeks. The bill further provides that for property that has a value of $10,000 or less, the court may order an alternative form of publication that will reasonably provide notice of such lien to all interested parties. I move again that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 108? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 108 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. Senate Bill 108 passes.
Senate Bill 238, a bill relating to collection of student demographic data.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff.
Mr. President, I move we pass this bill. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
This bill basically lays out the requirement for disclosure of information related to a student's race or ethnicity unless a student or his parent are given an option to designate other. Then the student's ethnicity is not required. That's it. So with that, I move we pass the bill.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 238? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 238 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 9.
Ayes 30, noes 9. Senate Bill 238 passes.
Senate Bill 399, a bill relating to overdose fatality review teams penalty.
The senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, move the bill passed. And speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body, Senate Bill 399 seeks to allow localities to establish overdose review teams. This came to me at the request of law enforcement and probation officials in the district who had observed a similar successful effort across the state line in Maryland. Simply what it allows localities to do is on an interdisciplinary basis bring stakeholders together to review overdose fatalities. Each one of these tragedies is unique. Each one is a teachable moment, and each one offers us some information going forward about how we can be proactive, whether it's in law enforcement or prevention of these tragedies. The multidisciplinary fatality review team looks at the details of a person's life and death through investigative and other reports, including community contact, in an effort to identify gaps and strengths in the community's response. Without legislation to establish these teams, to enact privacy, and to afford protection from civil liabilities, agencies and departments will continue to be bound by legislation and policies that prohibit the sharing of such information with each other. So as we continue the battle against opioid addiction in our communities, I believe, Mr. President, members of the body, this would be a vital and important tool for us. So move the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 399? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 399 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Senate Bill 399 passes.
Senate Bill 511, a bill relating to optometry scope of practice.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 511 pass. Speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 511 is a scope of practice bill that expands the scope of optometry in the Commonwealth to allow trained optometrists to use certain injections and Schedule 6 drugs to treat the eyelid. Thank you for this. Has been a lot of fun on this bill. Everyone's profession's name is so similar, but they're very different, and that's what we've had the discussion on this subject. This would allow optometrists to treat the eyelid. This is something that several other states have found success with, and is something that they've been teaching in schools of optometry for multiple decades now. And the bill before you came to its final form after lengthy discussions with optometrists, ophthalmologists around the Commonwealth, and specifically the Virginia Society of Eye Physicians and Surgeons, who originally expressed several concerns with the bill, but came to the committee and spoke for the final form of the bill. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben, rise?
The senator from Roanoke County would yield for a question.
Will the senator yield?
Certainly.
Senator will yield. Senator has the floor.
I was reading about the treatment for this condition, and I wondered. I went through a few pieces. It said that that a ophthalmologist might prescribe an antibiotic for an infected stye or this condition. Is an optometrist able to prescribe an antibiotic if one is called for?
So, first of all, the difference between the stye and the chalazion is one is infection, the other is not. And you see, if you look at lines 77 through 82, it discusses allowing the use of Schedule 6 controlled substances for this purpose.
Senator from Alexandria.
Gentleman yield for another question.
Gentleman yield.
Certainly.
Gentleman yields.
Further, I read that occasionally surgery is needed to drain the area and that a biopsy may be called for. If and correct me if I'm wrong, a chalazion keeps coming back after time, your ophthalmologist may need to biopsy it. And it says there, would a optometrist be able to biopsy it?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
So the original version of this bill, and part of the reason why we got to spend so much time and discussion on it, was the original version of this bill would allow optometrists in the Commonwealth, like they are able to in 18 other states, to perform a procedure using a blade on the eyelid. There was substantial discussion and concern expressed about that from ophthalmologists. The goal of the bill all along has been to increase access for care on the eyelid, and optometrists believe that through the use of injections and these Schedule 6 drugs, they can effectively treat most of these conditions. There will be situations likely where the optometrist might need to still refer out to an ophthalmologist, but the goal of this legislation remains the same from the beginning, which is to increase the access for this treatment. But because so much concern was expressed and we didn't want to let anything get in the way of expanding that treatment, this bill, if enacted into law, would not allow the use of a blade for operations on the eyelid.
Senator from Alexandria.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan, rise?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I will say that there is an agreement. It's a little bit of an uneasy agreement on this, and I think that has to do with the process. And I think that as we go forward, we're going to have to take a hard look at how we deal with scope issues in Virginia. This is really an issue that is comprehensive. It's patient safety, it's fair market, it's access, and it's different for different places in Virginia. But honestly, the process of us making a decision in the legislature of scope issues, I think is beyond our scope, to be frank. And I think that we're going to have to take a look at this next year and see if there's a better way for us to sort out scope issues and access to care and what Virginia needs to meet the needs of her Virginians. Thank you. I will be voting for the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Bedford, Senator Newman, rise?
Mr. President, to speak briefly to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this was a very difficult bill, and as you may have heard, if you're not on the committee, there was a lot of discussion about the surgery aspect. Clearly, that's been taken out, and I want to make sure I represent to you what all of us on the committee saw, and that is that there was an agreement on this. Number two, the senator from Henrico is not wrong. There are stovepipe issues that we should not be involved in. But if you look at this section of the code, the ophthalmology bill, and if you've been here as long as some, they've been disagreeing for a very long time. We've solved all of their disagreements in the code section, right? So that's not that unusual. So this is one where I think that I wish we did not have to get involved, but traditionally these two groups tend to disagree a lot, and therefore we have to get involved. And therefore, I would hope that given the fact that we have strong agreement, I think on all sides, that we would pass the bill.
I thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from King George, Senator Stewart, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the gentleman from Roanoke City yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
Or take the floor for a question?
From Roanoke County, certainly.
I'm sorry, Roanoke County, Mr. President.
The senator will take a question.
Mr. President, I'd ask, why on line 30 do we prohibit optometrists from administering an EpiPen? If I read that correctly, this would prohibit an optometrist from administering an EpiPen if someone is in the office and experiences anaphylactic shock.
Senator from Roanoke County.
Senator, the senator from Westmoreland, I was looking for the line there.
It's line 31. Line 30, except as provided in 54.1-3230, or for the treatment of emergency cases of anaphylactic shock with intramuscular epinephrine, which I understand
what
to
it
be an
is
EpiPen.
it's a prohibition except as provided in the code section that is later provided in the bill or in the case of an anaphylactic shock. So that would be permitted.
So you are authorizing, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you're authorizing them to administer an EpiPen?
Yes.
Thank you. I didn't read it that way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Sassoff. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the senator from Bedford is exactly right. As long as I've been here, excuse me, those two groups have been at war with each other. I remember back in the early 80s when we passed diagnostic drops, and about 3 years later, therapeutic drops, allowing optometrists to administer that. I mean, we were told that if we pass this, essentially everybody in the state's going to go blind, and nobody's gone blind. And the bill, I mean, if you can imagine, if it was a real serious problem with the final product, the ophthalmologist would not have supported it. But they worked out an agreement that everybody, could live with. I'm sure the optometrists probably had to give a little more than they would have liked to, but they reached an accommodation, and I don't see any reason to oppose the bill. And nobody's going blind.
Thank you, Senator. Roanoke County.
Mr. President, if no one else wishes to speak.
Do any other senators wish to speak to Senate Bill 511? Seeing none, Senator from Roanoke County has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would renew my motion that the bill pass. The bill, like the senior senator from Fairfax County mentioned, had significant deliberations with a lot of folks from a lot of different viewpoints to come together for this bill. We got to learn a lot of different folks' concerns, and I think we addressed every one of them that was brought to the committee, at least. In a Commonwealth of 8 million people, there might be some that still do not embrace the bill, but everyone that I've been able to talk to at the committee meeting, we were able to get on board with it. It's something that's been done in several other states successfully, and I wish that, I know we all wish the senator from Northern Fairfax was here today, but she was one of the real early supporters of this bill. And other than remembering this session for when the senator from Rockingham spoke against one of my bills, I'll remember it as the session that the senior senator from Fairfax County spoke strongly in favor of one of my bills, and I appreciate that. So I hope it'll be the pleasure of the body to pass this fine bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 511 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. Senate Bill 511 passes.
Senate Bill 532, a bill relating to display or parking of used motor vehicles for sale penalty.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move Senate Bill 532 pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the Senate, this was brought to me because we had set up in the past that allowed on your residential property you could sell up to 5 cars. And it's designed to sell cars titled in your name or family members' cars. It seems that in some cases we'd had particular residential localities that had said, well, I can sell 5 cars, my wife can sell 5 cars, my son can sell 5 cars, and so it had gotten a little out of hand. In committee, there was a question as whether this is an urban bill versus rural, where you have a larger area. Mr. President, members, it is not urban-rural. It is just designed, if you want to be a car dealer, to get a license and be one. But if you wanted to sell up to 5 cars a year for your family, we'd let you do it. I'll also point to the last few lines. It turns out that when this was originally passed, we had asked the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board to create, approve, and publish a form that can be affixed and placed on the vehicle to let people know they're in violation, and that was never done. So we're just asking for that to be done again. And so, Mr. President, although I hoped to segue to the next bill as a non-lawyer with my SAT word and say these people were tortfeasors, but I don't think they are, but they may be car-feasors, Mr. President. So I move Senate Bill 532 pass.
I thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from James City County, Senator Norment, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Knowing a little bit about the selling of cars in my history, I just would rise in support of the bill and ask somebody to support it, please.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 532? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 532 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 9.
Ayes 30, noes 9. Senate Bill 532 passes.
Senate Bill 535, a bill relating to personal injury claim disclosure of insurance policy limits.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
senator has the floor.
Several years ago, we passed legislation that required insurance companies to provide to a injured party their policy limits in serious cases. And much as Senior Senator from Fairfax reported with respect to optometry bills and Western civilization going blind as a result of their passage, there was also a prediction that with the passage of that legislation a number of years ago that plaintiffs and claims were going to go off the chart, and that didn't happen. It simply helped the parties to figure out what the landscape was and probably facilitated settlement of more claims rather than additional litigation. What this bill does is simply says that in a case involving somebody who is actually convicted of driving under the influence, that the insurance company likewise has to provide to the injured party the policy limits of that person's policy.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves, rise?
Mr. President, stand to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I can tell you the senator from Rockingham, no one's going to go blind, but you might go blind when you see your insurance premiums after this gets raised, after the trial attorneys get to it. Mr. President, I would just ask the senior senator from Rockingham a question. If he'd rise for a question.
Will the senator yield for or take the floor for a question? Yes. Yes, he will. Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, Senator Obenshain, my biggest thing in this is that what will this actually do to premiums? Do you have any idea of what this will do to premiums of policyholders if we continue to raise this and we start losing verdicts?
Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, yes, I do have some ideas to what it's going to do to premiums. It'll do the same thing that the original legislation did, that required disclosure of the policy limits in cases in which an injured party suffered more than $12,500 worth of medical expenses. It'll do nothing to those policy premiums.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose is the senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. In speaking to the senator's question, as practicing attorney, I believe this bill will actually decrease costs, because when you're an attorney and you have a case and you do not know the other side's policy limits, a lot of times you have to actually file suit to then send discovery to then discover what their policy limits are, because they will not tell you. I believe this bill will eliminate that. Now you will not have to file suit to discover the insurance limits. And as an attorney, you cannot settle a case without knowing the other side's limits. So I believe that this bill will actually decrease premiums for insurance policies.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 535? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 535 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. Senate Bill 535 passes.
Senate Bill 670, a bill relating to mental health awareness training, firefighters and emergency medical services personnel.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass and I'd like to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Senate Bill 670 requires that full-time fire departments offer training for mental or develop curricula for mental health awareness training. It doesn't specify how much training is required. It doesn't mandate a certain number of hours. It just requires the development of curricula for mental health awareness, and also for first responders. It's a request of the professional firefighters. It's been one of their major priorities for the last couple of years. It rose from the death of a young first provider in Northern Virginia who took her own life a couple of years ago, and after an investigation of that, it was determined that first responders need more mental health awareness training.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
I appreciate the senator for introducing this bill. It is an important measure. I've participated with some of the similar types of training of critical incident stress debriefing. The fire service, you see a lot, just like you do on, frankly, a combat field, between gunshot wounds, severe issues, amputations, decapitations, you name it. You get to see it, unfortunately, during the tenure during the service. And there are necessary additional training that would be beneficial to many members of the fire and EMS service, and urge the body to pass the measure.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 670? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 670 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. Senate Bill 670 passes.
Senate Bill 895, a bill relating to punitive damages cap.
The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the bill pass. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 895 deals with the punitive damage cap. We've had the same punitive damage cap of $350,000 since 1987. Much like the felony threshold, occasionally you need to update it just to stay relevant. Punitive damages address what are malicious, usually criminal conduct, and it's a way of deterring that conduct. I'll give you an example of, frankly, why I brought this bill and why it's relevant. I had a case years ago in which a client had $9 million embezzled from him and his family business by somebody close to them, and we sued that person. And the jury, in the course of determining the damages, decided to award punitive damages and were instructed that the limit was $350,000. And a few months later, I ran into one of the jurors at a high school football game, and he said, "Why was the punitive damage limit law so low?" And I explained to him, well, because Virginia's a pro-business state and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and said, "I don't get it." And I was like, you know what? I don't get it. Because to be honest, $350,000 is low. And in today's economy, it is almost no deterrent at all, particularly with some of the multi-million-dollar situations we have. Proving damages is not easy. Proving punitive damages is especially not easy. Anyone that's tried a case knows the instructions that go to the jury are very demanding. So this is simply a very modest increase, and I ask that you pass the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
Speak to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I appreciate this bill brought by the Trial Lawyers Benevolent Association. I would just say that, that we have a cap on punitive damages, just as we have a cap on medical malpractice awards. I really don't think if we're looking to try to keep Virginia in the pro-business state that it's in, that raising the cap on punitive damages is the right way to go. Now, granted, I'm not an attorney, but I will say that I really think, just from a business aspect, this is probably not a good idea, and I thank the President.
I thank the senator. Senator from Russell, Senator Chafin, for what purpose does the senator rise?
I rise to speak in favor of the bill, Mr. President.
The senator has the floor.
Normally, I see eye to eye with my seatmate on a great deal of many things, but on this matter, I voted against it in committee. The members might see that, and I've given it some thought, and I've thought about it, and I remembered some cases, and one case in particular that I had over 20 years ago in which my client was grievously injured as a result of a police chase and a vehicle trying to elude that policeman, who went over onto the other side of the 4-lane and crashed into 3 vehicles at speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour, causing that fiery crash. And as I thought about the facts and circumstances that give rise to these types of claims, they are the worst of the worst. That's what these types of claims are reserved for. They're reserved for instances when people have been grievously damaged or grievously injured, and it's through no fault of their own, and it's been the intentional conduct, or it has been the gross negligence of another that has caused those circumstances, or some extremely fraudulent act. So, the things that come to my mind are drunk drivers. They're people that are racing in a car, and they strike a family. They're people that are trying to get away from the police, like the case that I had over 20 years ago. And those are the kinds of instances that we must, as a people of this society, we must speak out against, and we must serve notice to the public that conduct will not be tolerated, and it will be punished, and it will be punished through an award of punitive damages. So I would hope that this body would increase this meager cap. All right, if there are many states that don't have caps on these types of instances, and leave it up to the discretion of a jury, and it is a meager increase that is being sought here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purposes does the senator from James City County, Senator Norman, rise?
Mr. President, I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am, in fact, an attorney and have been involved in these jury cases where punitive damages are considered. But I must say, I always get a chill down my spine when I hear the comments come out, I had a case. I had a case. When I come to Richmond, I leave my character and demeanor as a trial attorney at home and do what I think is in the best policy interest of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I would suggest to you, Mr. President, that the senior senator from Chesapeake is correct. One of the reasons that Virginia has remained in the top tier of business-friendly states is because of our position on torts and our restraint on various tort reform. And for those of you that are attorneys, I would remind you how businesses have found unreceptive some of the states in the Deep South around Mississippi, Louisiana, some of those states on it. And I suggest to you, Mr. President, that the punitive damages cap is not something that we ought to try to update based upon what the cost of living has been or whether we have raised a larceny threshold here in Virginia. Raising the punitive damage award is not going to be considered a business-friendly initiative. And I listened to my good friend from the Great Southwest who was talking about a case he handled 10 years ago. And many of these cases, in fact, are against individuals. And, of course, punitive damages are not covered by insurance policies. But it's also important to remember that punitive damages are an award that is frequently sought against companies and corporations. And I suggest to you that my experience as a pitiful attorney has been that juries have a very different perspective sometimes between the individual, perhaps Joe Smith, who has done something, and a corporation.
I thank the senator. For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise?
Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
You know, usually the senator from James City County and I don't differ on business issues, but I noticed he had a change of heart from the committee vote. But I can tell you that when any bill that we have here in the General Assembly is viewed by the business community as being anti-business, I hear immediately from the Northern Virginia Chamber or the Northern Virginia Technology Council, which probably accounts for 80 to 90% of all the revenue produced in our region of the state. I've heard no such complaint. And I'm not an attorney, y'all know that. But my understanding is that punitive damages, as was pointed out by the senator from Southwest Virginia, that it's usually a pretty egregious act in order for this, to be awarded by the jury. And, $350,000 was put on there in 1987. About 7 years ago, we finally, after 25, 30 years, whatever, got around to raising the cap, the malpractice cap. And if you remember, Governor McDonald had vetoed it because he had said that he, would do that during the 2009 campaign. But he kind of sent a signal that he would not be one bit upset if we overrode his veto, which we did, because the cap, had not been raised in so many years. So I don't think we're going to be chasing any businesses out of the state by going from $350,000 to $500,000, and it has been 30 years. And like I said, if it was anti-business, you can bet the business community in Northern Virginia would have let every one of us know it and know it on no uncertain terms. So I would hope you all would pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 895? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 895 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. Senate Bill 895 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills.
Sorry, the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 19, having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 238, I ask that we reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 238 was passed be reconsidered? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President, speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
To further explain this bill a little bit, if you're a student in middle school and high school in Virginia Beach, and your parents have to select your ethnicity and race, they have 4 choices: black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. So a group of children came to me and said that they were somewhat offended by this because they're not sure if they should offend their mom or their dad. So here's an example. If a Middle Eastern mom and a white dad have a child, then if the student didn't select one of the 4, black, white, Asian, or Hispanic, then the teacher would select whatever they believed, whether that child was darker. If they were Middle Eastern and they had a little darker complexion, they'd select black. If they were Middle Eastern and they had a lighter complexion, they would select white. In this case, the students came to me and said, I'm either going to offend my mom or I'm going to offend my dad. Which one am I going to offend? I should have the choice of doing other. And there's been a lot of mixtures back and forth, and I won't go into it, between Greek and Italian and Middle Eastern, and then even on the Muslim faith, where they're referred to as mulat, they don't consider themselves black, and they don't consider themselves Asian or Hispanic, and they don't consider themselves white. So in that case, the teachers were selecting for the students because there was no category for that student. So what we've done is we've said we're going to put other on there, and if a student doesn't select, then other would be kind of the default. But a parent, unless other is on there, a student could not select, a teacher could not select for that student unless other was one of the descriptors on there. And, Mr. President, that's a better explanation of the bill. I apologize for not going into grave detail earlier, but that's what it is. We don't want children to have to pick a mom over a dad or a dad over a mom just because we decide that there's only 4 categories of black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. Thank you very much.
I thank the senator, the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Speaking to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak in favor of this bill. It really is as simple as, on the U.S. Census, there are 15 different choices for what race you are. But many of our schools, on their forms, they only give you 5. And if you're a biracial student, as my children are, usually none of the boxes that are on the form are accurate for you. So all this bill does, we still will collect racial data, but we will put a box that says other on the form. So if you don't fit one of the other 5 categories, there is a box that includes you. But I think that's an easier way for schools to deal with this than requiring them to list 15 different races on the form the way the census does. So I ask you to vote in favor of the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 238? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 238 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 6.
Ayes 33, no 6. Senate Bill 238 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I now move all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, including all Senate bills on pages 21 through 25, including Senate Bill 877 through Senate Bill 920, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who may desire to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 21 through 25, Senate Bill 877 through Senate Bill 920, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto? that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 877, the committee amendments have been adopted by the Senate, and there is a floor substitute.
The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
Senator, would we like to start by reconsidering the vote on the committee amendment?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'd ask that the Senate reconsider the amendments the committee amendment to Senate Bill 877.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the vote by which the committee amendments were agreed to be reconsidered? All those in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 0.
Ayes 37, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I'd ask that that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
We're almost there. Would the senator want to reject the committee amendments?
Yes, Mr. President. I ask that we reject the committee amendments.
Thank the senator. With the recommendation that the amendments be rejected, the question is, shall the amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendments are rejected. Senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Now, Mr. President, I'd ask that we waive the reading of the floor substitute.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I'd ask that we adopt the floor substitute in speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have worked closely with the sponsor of the bill, Senator Mason. This bill basically makes some changes to the Hampton Roads Transit Commission. It will appoint two senators and 2 delegates, one from each side of the water in Hampton Roads to this organization. It also makes a change in the makeup of the board. We inadvertently changed it a couple of years ago so that one member, in order to stagger terms, got a 2-year term, but then was unable to be reappointed. So this substitute changes that and fixes it. I've spoken with the patron of the bill. I believe he's in support of this, and so I would ask the body to engross the bill and pass on its third reading.
Senator Rexy, on the stage, we're going to agree to the floor substitute. You have a pending motion?
I'd agree, yes.
Okay. The question is, shall the floor substitute be agreed to? All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor substitute is agreed to. And for the senior senator, we can actually leave it in the block if you'd like. Thank you. Thank the senator.
Senate Bill 506, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment.
The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendment.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 582, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendments.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendments be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 588, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the committee amendments.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 695, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 769, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Move the committee amendment.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 859, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 920, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 520, a bill relating to non-agriculture irrigation wells prohibited outside superficial aquifer, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 576, a bill relating to stream restoration standards and specifications, reported for the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 698, a bill relating to erosion and sediment control inspections, natural gas pipelines, stop work instructions, emergency. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute, and there is a floor amendment.
The senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I next move that the reading of the floor amendment be waived, it having been distributed to the desks.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I then move that the floor amendment be agreed to. It simply removes the emergency clause from the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 699, a bill relating to stormwater management, inspections, natural gas pipelines, stop work instructions, emergency. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute, and there is a floor amendment.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I move that that the committee substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from Bath.
Mr. President, I next move that the reading of the floor amendment be waived.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I next move that the floor amendment be agreed to. It simply removes the emergency clause.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. The senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 854, a bill relating to renewal of nursery stock licenses late fee, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
The senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 27 through 39, including Senate Bills 186 through Senate Bill 608, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 27 through 39, Senate Bill 186 through Senate Bill 608, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquire the clerk. Does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise for the purposes of an announcement and a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, by way of announcement, I want to let the body know where we are at this stage as we're close to entering February. We have seen almost 1,200 Senate bills pass through our committees, and we have acted on almost 700 of those bills. So we have right around 500, a little bit over halfway left to go in the committees. And it's a lot of work that has been accomplished, and I want to congratulate the members for their significant hours and effort put in, but we have a substantial amount to go, as you can see from the floors, the sessions that we've occurred. But I wanted to thank the members for that and give them a status. Mr. President, now for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the area that I live in is rich in history, as all of Virginia is, but one of the things that is special in our area is the presence of our Native American tribes. And Mr. President, as many members know, that legislation has been moving through the congressional ranks, sponsored by Congressman Whitman and Senators Keene and Warner, and that legislation is to recognize 6 tribes that have not to this point been recognized. Mr. President, I am pleased by the fact that the President yesterday signed and formally recognized 6 Virginia tribes that were very deserving of that recognition. Mr. President, members of these tribes trace their ancestry back to the Powhatan tribe, the first Native American people to greet the English settlers in 1607. Mr. President, I want to read the tribes and their chiefs. The Chickahominy tribe with Chief Stephen Atkins. I can pronounce that one, Senator Stanley. The Eastern Chickahominy tribe with Chief Gene Atkins. The Upper Mattaponi tribe with Chief Frank Atkins. The Rappahannock tribe with my friend Chief Ann Richardson. The Nansman tribe with Chief Lee Lockamy. And the Monacan tribe with Chief Dean Branham. Mr. President, now 4,400 Native Americans in Virginia will be recognized through the actions that pass through those bodies. Mr. President, it is a lot that our Native American tribes have experienced over the years, some positive, some negative, but they've had a tremendous impact on the Commonwealth of Virginia and the direction of our country. And Mr. President, as these 6 tribes now join the Pamunkey tribe in receiving federal recognition, I would move that the Senate do adjourn today in recognition and honor of the Chickahominy, the Eastern Chickahominy, the Upper Mattaponi, the Rappahannock, the Nansman, and the Monacan tribes.
Thank the senator from Hanover. the senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a quick announcement.
The senator has the floor.
I just want to remind everyone that the Military and Veterans Caucus is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., and our special guest will be you, Mr. President, as well as the governor, are coming to speak to about our veterans issues and those important matters of state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of a correction announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. At 5 o'clock this afternoon, rather than 4:30, at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the Senate Republican caucus will gather for a prayer meeting on the 6th floor.
Thank the senator. Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the gallery, tonight you're going to have the special occasion to meet many of our members of the Board of Directors of the New College Institute. New College Institute created by this body and the body across the hall, providing quality education, secondary education, college education for young men and women in Southside Virginia. I have the honor of being the chairman of the board. We also have Senator Hanger, who serves on the board as well. Tonight, we're having a reception at Sam Miller's. It starts at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. If you could fit it into your schedule, I hear there are oysters on one of these things, but I can tell you where mine is better. I'm buying. You heard that. You heard it right. I'm buying. So come on out and free water for everybody. We're going to have heavy hors d'oeuvres, great food, and I'm buying, if I didn't tell you that already. So please come to Sam Miller's. Meet everybody at New College Institute. We'd love to see you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would like for you and the clerk to mark this date down in history, that it is the date that the parsimonious senator from Franklin County demonstrated his true heart of generosity.
The journal will so note, sir. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, January 30th, the Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Committee on Local Government will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in Senate Room A in the Pocahontas Building. The Finance Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3:30 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1 in Pocahontas. Senators Norman, Newman, Howell, Saslaw, Hanger, Ruff, Donovan, and Stewart. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will meet at 4 p.m., 5th floor, Subcommittee Room Number 2 in Pocahontas. Senators Cosgrove, Black, Barker, Lewis, and Suderline. At 5 o'clock today in the 6th floor Senate Leadership Room, the Republican caucus will meet. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 31st, the Finance Subcommittee on Public Safety will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the 6th floor Senate Leadership Conference Room and Pocahontas Building. Senators McDougal, Howe, Norman, Lucas, Carrico, and Obenshain. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the Credit Union House, 108 North 8th Street. The Committee on Finance will meet at 9 a.m. in Committee Room B in the Pocahontas Building. The Republican caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1.
Thank the clerk. The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President.
Senator, I apologize. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove would like to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't impose much time. We're going to have the Health Subcommittee meet this afternoon. And it's imperative that anybody that has a bill before that subcommittee be there. That would be Senators McClellan, Chafin, Dance, Carrico, McPike, and Wexton, and myself. Last chance. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn, and we do so today in honor of the Chickahominy, the Eastern Chickahominy, the Upper Manipoli, the Rappahannock, he did it to me. The Nansum and the Monacan tribes, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow in honor of the following tribes: the Chickahominy, the Eastern Chickahominy, the Upper Mattaponi, the Rappahannock, the Monacan, and the Nansemond? We will note that that's the senator's fault. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.